Breaking Bad's final episode aired Sunday night, September 29th, 2013. Despite the objections of a few haters, the response to the finale has been overwhelmingly positive. Over its nearly 6-year run, this show has accumulated fans like a snowball rolling down a hill and continues to do so thanks to Netflix and the show's DVD releases. The unique thing about this show is the very broad crowd it attracts, despite its nihilistic subject matter. People of all ages and from all walks of life are fans of this show, and chances are if you meet somebody and you feel that you have nothing in common with them, it'll turn out that you're both Breaking Bad fans. The final episode was watched by an estimated 10.3 million viewers, compared to the 1.9 million viewers that tuned into the finale of Season 4. You don't need to be a mathematician to know that that's one hell of an increase. Breaking Bad creator Vince Gilligan has described his intentions for the series as finite. He envisioned the series with a beginning and an end. He just wasn't quite sure how long it would take to tell the story.
There was a temptation. There was I should start by saying there was a great deal of confusion on my part, or if not the word confusion, lack of clarity. Back to your first question, how long should this story go? How many seasons? It was a very hard question to answer. It always was.
Most viewers got that feeling when they first started watching the show. In the first minutes of the pilot, we know that Walter White's time is limited, but we don't know what is going to happen along the way. Now that the final episode is aired, we know the full story. But before we discuss it, it's time to sound the spoiler alarm.
Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Trips has sounded the spoiler alert. If you have not played the final episode on your PVR, we suggest that you cover your ears, close your eyes, or stop the video now.
The final episode takes place on Walt's 52nd birthday, 2 years to the day after the first episode. He's been holed up in a remote cabin for months, and his cancer has worsened. Walt knows he doesn't have much time left, so he manages to start up a car that's on the property and sets off on his journey to tie up some loose ends. This is the major purpose of the final episode, and it occurs over 3 major scenes. The first of these scenes occurs when Walt pays a visit to Elliot and Gretchen Schwartz. While sitting in a diner, Walt sees his former friends being interviewed by Charlie Rose on TV. Their company, Gray Matter Technologies, has turned them into giants in the pharmaceutical industry, and they have just donated $28 million to drug rehab clinics around the country. Keep in mind that Gretchen is Walt's ex-girlfriend, and that they formed the company based on Walt's discoveries, before Gretchen and Elliot bought out Walt for a measly $5,000. Although they were kind to him when he was diagnosed with cancer, it was mostly out of guilt for screwing Walt out of a fortune. It's no secret that Walt has a great deal of resentment towards these two. After procuring their address by posing as a journalist doing a story on them, he sneaks into their house just as they are returning home to make dinner. Upon spotting Walt, the couple are stricken with fear, while Walt remains calm and cordial, telling them he has something for them. Elliot feebly threatens Walt with a cheese knife, and his reaction is one of the best lines in the episode.
Elliot, if we're gonna go that way, you'll need a bigger knife.
So Walt has the couple help him bring over $9 million into the house and instructs them to open a trust fund for Walt Jr., who will have access to the money once he turns 18. Just to make sure they comply, he tells them he's taken $200,000 out of the money to pay 2 of the finest hitmen east of the Mississippi to keep tabs on them. The 2 hitmen turn out to be Badger and Skinny Pete holding laser pointers. It's great to see these guys one last time. I thought they were great characters during the run of the show. They provided much needed comic relief without being too corny and taking away from the dark tone of the show. These 2 also help move the plot along by telling Walt that his famous blue meth is still being circulated and that they thought he was the one cooking it. This leads Walt to surmise that Jesse Pinkman is still alive and cooking meth, as Jesse is the only one capable of making the same quality product as Walt. Walt knows that he has to find Jesse, but there's another task he must attend to first. The next scene in question begins with Skylar on the phone with her sister Marie, who's warning Skylar that Walt's in town and that she thinks he's going to do something crazy. The camera then pans to reveal that Walt's been standing in front of Skylar the whole time. Walt's reveals in this scene and the one with Elliot and Gretchen show an almost ghost-like quality, providing a bit of foreshadowing to Walt's upcoming end. He's come to say a proper goodbye to his family, and he admits the following to Skylar.
I did it for me.
I liked it. I was good at it. And I was really I was alive.
If you think about this statement, it has been evident all along. Let's go back for a moment to the very first episode, when Walt goes on a ride-along with Hank and Gomez.
Meth labs are nasty on a good day. You mix it wrong and you got mustard gas.
Phosphine gas. I think.
Yeah, exactly. One whiff will kill you. That's why the respirators.
It's evident here that Walt has done some thinking about the chemistry behind crystal meth production. He has probably fantasized about this in the past, and his cancer diagnosis prompted him to make a decision to become a meth cook. At the beginning of the series, we see a much different Walter White. He's a mild-mannered man who works 2 jobs to make ends meet. His wife talks down to him, his boss at the car wash treats him badly. He just doesn't seem to command much respect as an individual. Walt makes the journey from being a downtrodden middle-aged man to being one of the most feared figures in the New Mexico underworld.
Say my name.
Heisenberg.
You're goddamn right.
The last scene I want to look at is the ending. This has to be one of the greatest wrap-ups in television history. Walt arrives at the neo-Nazis' compound and is greeted by Kenny, who instructs him to park his car with the others, but doesn't seem too bothered when Walt parks his car alongside the main building. Walt is searched and his keys and wallet are taken from him. Walt is then greeted by Jack Welker, and Walt tells him that he's discovered a new way to manufacture the product without the hard-to-obtain ingredient methylamine. Jack tells Walt that he can obtain methylamine through Lydia, and then instructs Kenny to take Walt outside and kill him. Walt buys some time by accusing Jack of partnering with Jesse, and to prove him wrong, Jack has his men bring Jesse out, shackled and beaten, and that's when this happens. Walt tackles Jesse and brings him to the ground as the neo-Nazis look on in amusement. They think Walt's attacking him out of rage until Walt hits the trunk release on his car remote and activates a trunk-mounted machine gun. The gun opens fire and oscillates, filling the building and most of its occupants with lead. We saw Walt putting this apparatus together earlier in the episode, but we weren't quite sure what it was. We knew that Walt parked his car next to the building, but we weren't sure why. Now we know what he had in mind. The machine gun mounted in Walt's trunk takes out most of the neo-Nazis, but misses Todd. And now we get the extremely satisfying scene of Jesse strangling Todd with his chains. We've wanted this asshole to get what's coming to him ever since this moment.
No! No! No!
Another satisfying scene follows as Walt shoots Jack in the head, then answers Todd's ringing phone. It's Lydia calling Todd to make sure that Walt has been dealt with, but instead, he asks how she's feeling, informing her that he spiked her sweetener with ricin earlier in the episode when they were in the cafe. Walt has one final moment with Jesse and reveals that he's been hit with one of his own bullets before Jesse tears out of there like a madman, laughing and crying at the same time. Walt walks into the meth lab and looks at the equipment with a fond smile on his face, remembering the days when he was cooking meth. He falls to the floor and dies just as police storm the compound. And that's the end of Walter Hartwell White. He didn't waste away and die in some hospital bed. He died with his boots on. After the finale aired, the internet lit up with overwhelmingly enthusiastic responses. For the most part, people were very pleased with the ending and the story as a whole. Vince Gilligan didn't just let the show go on until people lost interest. He had a gripping tale in mind, and for almost 6 years, he had us all on the edge of our seat, wondering what would happen next. By the end, Walt tied up most of the loose ends, made up for some of his past transgressions as best he could, and dealt out payback to those who had it coming. Over the course of the series, he did some pretty awful things, but still we continued to root for him, and none of us are quite sure why we did. Could it be that he underwent a powerful transformation from an average citizen into a feared and respected figure? Do we all secretly wish that we could go through something similar? It has been said that certain films and shows are popular because we, the audience, get to experience life-threatening danger without leaving the comfort and safety of our homes. I think that's definitely the case for Breaking Bad. In any case, thanks to Vince Gilligan and the cast and crew for providing us with top-notch, seat-gripping entertainment for the last 6 years.